everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today, a ship that many of you have requested. And by the way, I'm sorry for a lot of math statistics and numbers over the last week. It's just that, well, that's how things have turned out with the release of the Tier 9s. But now we've talked enough about all those things, and let's get back to the regular program. And look at this. Now, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I've tried to look it up, and there seems to be a lot of disagreement about how this ship is being pronounced. The closest I've gotten is the Fuso, something around that corner. So if anybody has more intel on how this thing is pronounced, please do let me know. I'm going to call her the Fuso, because I think that's how everybody else pronounces her. And yeah, Japanese battleships. We haven't actually looked at Japanese battleships at all. This was probably the very first line I ground when I started the game, because, well, if we have a very quick look at the Japanese battleship line. At the very top, there's the Yamato. And of course, when I started the game, the very first thing I wanted was a Yamato. Like probably everybody else did, let's be honest. I didn't get all that far, as you can see. But after the Congo at Tier 5, which was actually a British-built battlecruiser, the Fuso is an actual Japanese constructed, designed, and made ship. So, what is this thing like? Well, before that, maybe what was that thing like? She was actually built before the First World War, just at the onset of the First World War, which makes her a relatively old machine. But she wasn't really used in the First World War at all. And in the Second World War, she was part of the fleet that was heading towards Pearl Harbor. But, well, didn't get to shoot at anything because she was a battleship, and that was a carrier thing. And she was also part of the fleet that was trying to chase down the carriers after the Doolittle raid. If you haven't heard of the Doolittle raid, that was a mostly motivational thing that the Americans did after having their battleships blown up in Pearl Harbor, where they got some, I think there would be B-17s, onto a carrier and actually sent them over to drop bombs onto the Japanese mainland to, well, show everybody that, no, we're not going to take it. And not taking it, they did. So I think Fuso was part of the fleet that was chasing after the Doolittle raid American fleet, but never caught on. Later, throughout the Second World War, she eventually fought in the Battle of Surigao Strait in the Philippines. And I actually have been to Surigao. And she got sunk. I think she got bombed by American dive bombers, and eventually she got torpedoed, I think, by a destroyer, and then eventually sunk in that battle. She is, well, like I said, a relatively old ship. She's been modernized a couple of times, but at the core, she's a relatively old ship. She is not the most well-protected ship out there. Generally, Japanese battleships tend not to be. Their armor is not the greatest. You want to be careful with the broadsides on these things because, I mean, she's a Tier 6 ship, so she can get into unpleasant battles with other things around this tier or Tier 7s that have much bigger guns, and you do want to be careful. So the thing that Japanese ships tend to have is relatively good torpedo protection for reasons. The speed is okay. She's not as slow as the American battleships of the time. Well, let's be honest, nothing is. But she's not super speedy either. She is okay-ish maneuverable. And it does take her a really long time to get up to speed. So this is not the most nimble ship out there. Again, this is a World War I vintage ship still. The guns. And I find that on Japanese ships, the guns are really the kind of the main event on things. She has the 356 mils, just as the New Mexico in the American tech tree, and she's got 12. The reload is surprisingly quick. That is because of the modules and elite bonus I've put in there. We'll get to that in a second. The high explosive, as is common with Japanese ships, is actually very good in terms of damage. The fire chance is not the greatest, but again, you've got 12 of them. So given that they're only 356 mils, if you're shooting something that is super sturdy and you can't get through, using the high explosive is actually a viable thing. Or defend yourself against destroyers. which is something that Japanese battleships are surprisingly good at. The armor piercing is okay as well, but the high explosive is pretty good. She has 14 152mm secondaries. Now, they only have a 5.4 kilometer range, and their reload is a bit on the long side with 9 seconds. And given that they're single casemate mounts, they're mounted as was the style at the time all around the ship on the side. But they are pretty capable, and again, are relatively useful if you're defending yourself from destroyers. This does not make this a brawler battleship. If you're brawling in a Japanese battleship, probably, at least in a lower tier Japanese battleship, you're probably doing it wrong. These are more ranged ships. Her AA is nothing special. It's there, but if you come under concentrated air attack, there's not very much you can do. And again, this is somewhat symptomatic for Japanese ship. They are not known for their supreme anti-aircraft. The surface detection is terrible at 12 kilometers, but again, you're in a battleship. You're not expecting to be hidden for very long. The elite bonus here, you can choose between actually modernizing the whole thing for a bit more hit points, a bit AA damage, which is really a waste, and a bit of torpedo damage reduction. Or you can go with the gun. And given that I like to play these things more from a ranged perspective, the guns definitely for me are the strong point of these, so I'd like to reinforce these things. In terms of equipment, it's a slightly unusual setup for me. I have the main battery reload mod 2, which makes, well, the guns fire quicker, because again, this is for me, it's all about the guns. I would have liked using the precision mod, but you can't get the precision mod. I've got the damage control system mod because the deck fire suppression mod is not available at this tier, so I've just got the general damage control system mod because you're in a battleship, tier 6, a lot of good light cruisers around that like to set fires. So that's the thing, and I actually have the steering gear mod in here instead of the regular torpedo defense modification that I would normally take. And the reason for that is that I find that tier 5, as a mid-tier, tier 5, tier 6 battles tend to be super scrappy because everybody's out for their own. And looking, just sailing around shooting at things. So more often than not, I find myself not actually being able to maintain a position of ranged gunnery that I would like to maintain, but having to, going for the cap or dealing with destroyers that nobody has bothered to take care of. And I actually find that I do need a little bit of maneuverability as much as I can have. Not at the sacrifice here of my damage control mod, but still as much as I can get. The supplies are battleship standard, crew rations for reload, maintenance for hit points, and diesel for ship speed. Because, AA doesn't really make sense, so you might as well. I've got a commander actually on her. The reason is that I've actually been playing the ship quite a bit. I don't have any premium Japanese battleships for captain training or for swapping them around. And I have a absolute crap load of Japanese commanders. I don't know why, but I have a lot of them. So he's actually sitting on the Fuso. And I think I've got another one on the Nagato who's kind of similar in terms. So commander skills, the underwater protection, the torpedo alert, relatively straightforward. The artillery maintenance, yes, because this is a battleship in which you will try to stand back. This is not a German battleship. You don't go forward. You don't have the armor plating for that. You don't go forward and try to brawl. You're a gun platform. Doesn't mean it doesn't end up this way in the end game, but for the early game when you're not having taken damage yet, this actually improves your shell dispersion, and this is overall quite neat. I've got the victorious charge to recover some hit points when you kill something. I've actually gone with the survivalist because, again, you are in a relatively poorly armored ship in comparison to some of the other ones out there, instead of the fire supremacy, which would have given me another precise aiming consumable. I have the exploit weakness, which again is a little bit unusual for battleships, but I am using that because I do tend to use the high explosives actually a fair bit if I can't really get any good penetrations against enemy battleships. And I have the marksman skill to extend the precise aiming, which actually brings us back to something I've completely forgotten. Here we go. She gets the precise aiming system consumable, precise aiming 1. So we've got 2 of them. It would have really been kind of nice to have a third one, but I prefer, the ship's guns are pretty precise as they are, and I prefer to have the extended heal. That was kind of more important, but it would have been a total viable choice to go for the fire supremacy. Definitely for higher tiers, but yeah. Also, the generalist would be absolutely a viable choice as well. So that is the Fuso. We'll call her the Fuso for now. And well, let's go. Let's have a battle, and I'll show you how I play this ship. Do I like her? I'll answer that question later, if I like her better than the New Mexico or not. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, double New Mexico, another Fuso, a König, an Aoba, and a Shenyang. Wait, are we? How did that Shenyang get in here? He's not in a division. That's a tier 4 destroyer. We're in a tier 5 game. What? The spread should be 2. You've seen this, right? I think the Shenyang was initially classified as a tier 5, I think, or misclassified as a tier 5. So I think they messed that up actually, and she actually gets into tier 5 matchmaking. This is something that I've actually noticed in. Someone mentioned on our Discord as well, on our fleet Discord, that he has that problem with the Shenyang. I think they misclassified her as a tier 5. Okay, but back to the battle. So I'm switching over to high explosive for starters, because I am fully expecting there to be destroyers coming around the flank. I'm keeping my nose pointed in here. I do not want to rush forward because I am definitely not a ship that I would be rushing in. Let's see if the Nicholas can spot anyone, and we'll give him fire support once he actually... No, there's an Alba. Okay, it would be nice if I had armor piercing loaded for that. But you know, you never know what you hit first. High explosive isn't bad as well. I'm gonna stick to the high explosive for now, because I'm pretty sure there's a destroyer somewhere here. It looks like most of the battleships are going the other way. Okay, so let's turn, because we need to reinforce the other flank, because they are pushing hard on that flank. So at that distance, at the New Mexico, I'm going to switch back to the armor piercing. Okay, there's the Shenyang, right. Now, can we reach him? No, we cannot, but there come torpedoes, so we do not want to be here. We've got the armor piercing loaded, so we might as well use it. But let's switch back to the high explosive. And that might actually have been enough, but let's just make sure that he's not getting through, because our team has completely abandoned this flank to go God knows where. Okay, primary's out. Where are you? You're behind this island, aren't you? No, I do not want a broadside here. Come on, I just want the Shenyang. Ah, bollocks. Okay. Looks like we do look like he's hiding. Okay. He should be on low enough health that I can kill him with my secondaries. Oh, there he is. Found you. Can I get the things on target? Come on, that should be enough. Yeah, got him. Okay, back to the armor piercing. And we do not want a broadside in this thing. So let's get back to... Ow! Yeah, that's exactly why you don't want to do that. Not a good position I'm in here right now. Lost one of my main turrets. Fire out, is there anything low health? No, they're all in full health. Well, that's just peachy, isn't it? Okay, I need my turret back, please. And I need to back up here and make sure we're defending this, because they are pushing. So we're just reversing. Let's see what we can do against that König there, because he's rushing forward. Look at the the dispersion on these guns. There we go. Very nice. That's what you get. It's just out of secondary range, but that's okay. I don't want to have a secondary battle with the König. Okay, König should be dead. Yep, König is dead. There's another Fuso over there. Get the guns on target. I'm gonna use you a bit for a shield, if you don't mind. There we go. Very nice. And that's basically how you want to play this ship. You want to do ranged gunnery, if you can. You want to stay because you have very precise, very good gun. Look at the dispersion coming in as well. That thing hurts. You want as much as possible to use ranged gunnery, and you have an absolutely excellent high explosive if you need it. It's like against destroyers, for example. Let's see if we can dodge some of these shells. There we go. There's another destroyer out there, but there's a Nürnberg. She can take care of that, right? Let's see if we can shake this Fuso off. So that should go far. Yep, that goes. And there we go. There's a New Mexico as well. Need to kite away. Nürnberg can deal with that. Fuso is hiding behind the island, so I can't finish her off. Let's go after the New Mexico. So don't underestimate the armor piercing on this thing. Oh, New Mexico is stationary. I should have. You see, I should have looked at the. We don't need to capture the base. What are you talking about? We've got 30 seconds left. You need to look at the smokestack. You see the New Mexico is stationary. She's not actually moving. Now she's moving. She's moving backwards. Where's the other Fuso back there? Can I get in within range? So I don't have much health left. In any other battleship, I would have said I have sufficient health left, but not in this thing. I don't think I'm going to get in range anymore. Oh, we're capping it out. Oh, I haven't been paying attention. Someone's actually been capping. Okay, anyway. Yes, Japanese battleship. Very, very nice, precise guns. Not the greatest armor, but she is completely capable of defending herself against destroyers with a very good set of 150mm secondaries, and with the high explosive, she can do a very decent amount of damage. You can also use the high explosive if you can't get through battleships. But honestly, I find if you're facing tier 7 battleships, it gets trickier. But with tier 6 battleships, it's generally not a problem. I mean, you've seen or with tier 5s, you've seen I've been able to citadel the König without much trouble from a mid range. So they're good guns. I'm thoroughly enjoying these, and play her at range. Try not to get into close range fights with this thing, especially not with other battleships, because you will lose health very, very quickly. So, do I like her better than the New Mexico? Honestly, and I know that you all like the New Mexico quite a bit, but I do like this ship. The New Mexico is a bit of a shotgun, especially at maximum range. She has a lot of guns, and they are, but the Fuso is a lot more precise in my opinion, and I occasionally do like. The New Mexico is a bit more of a brawler, but she's not fast enough for that. The Fuso is a good ranged ship and plays best when you stay at range. So you don't want to stray too far from your position. You want to find yourself in a good position where you can cover as much as possible the different directions the enemy team is coming from. You can deal with destroyers that are rushing you. And I think you'll be very successful in this ship. So I definitely like the Fuso. I like the New Mexico as well, a bit. I'm getting used to her, but the Fuso I like better. Anyway, yeah, that's it for today. Starting with the next video, I will be actually on holiday because we are going for a short trip. Because it's currently summer holidays in Australia, we're going for a short trip to go to some theme parks. And so starting Thursday up to Wednesday the following week, I think, I'll be on holiday, so I will probably not be very quick in replying to comments, but I'll pre-upload some videos, so don't worry, you'll get some stuff. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.